Hello and welcome to Forward. Our guest today is Chris Ake, the founder and CEO of Sidekick AI. Headquartered in Grand Rapids, Michigan, Sidekick helps people manage their meetings by augmenting the process with AI. Scheduling a meeting can be a frustrating experience, and Sidekick aims to streamline this process with natural language processing. Chris is a serial entrepreneur and built several companies before starting Sidekick with his co founders John Butler and Nathan Jean. In this episode, we talk about the challenges of building an AI assistant, why it is critical to get to market early and iterate, what was the most challenging time for Chris on his entrepreneurial journey, and what makes a great team of co founders. Chris, welcome to the show.
Glad to be here.
Let's start by giving our listeners a brief overview of the market you're in. What did the space look like when you started? And where did you see the opportunity?
Yeah, back when we had the idea, 2019, it was, between me and my two co-founders. I mean, now scheduling, there's quite a bit of tools in the market. Even some bigger softwares are offering scheduling tools within their software. But where we kind of stepped in back in 2019, so, 3 years ago, it's going to be going on for, was basically what can we make that's going to be pretty helpful for us? The tool's only built for us, right? But what's going to be kind of more advanced, and can we build something more useful and advanced than like link sharing, right? So we all know like Calendly, they're the giant in the world, and then you have like Doodles and a lot of other kind of just like simpler, here's my calendar link, book a time with me. And even 3 years ago, like a lot of these companies made a lot of progress since then. And really, Sidekick was just kind of built on the idea of building a tool for us internally that we could use, and would it be a little more helpful? So that was kind of where it's at. And my partner, Nate, he's the original idea guy behind it. He was looking at the market, and really there was nothing that he found out there. As we started building the tool, the kind of the market landscape, we found this company called X.AI. They were around since like 2014, I think, and they raised quite a bit of capital and had some pretty big backers. And they were kind of what we did. They did it in a different way, but they were like the closest thing. Even back then, you actually had to CC their bot, and you had to give it pre-prompted commands to tell it to do, what to do. Whereas our feature, the one that we built, literally could read over text and email and like understand intent of, hey, next Wednesday at 9 p.m. does it work? Does it not work? Check your calendars and actually book it. So at the time, and maybe even still, like we were like the only ones that we knew in the world actually building that application for scheduling to actually read and like understand language, whatever format it is.
Like a human would do.
Correct. Yeah, that was the idea. Nate built it because at the time I had an assistant. He didn't want to have an assistant, and this is when his company Kairos was just doubling in size, and he's like, I need some help with booking. So yeah, it was something like, could we replicate what a human could do for scheduling, because there was nothing out there.
And in terms of the users, who did you have in mind when you decided to build it, and how that understanding of the user changed over time?
Yeah, good question. I mean, so really, like, as I mentioned before, it's kind of built for us. And us, meaning like, who am I? What do I do? Right? People have no clue, right? A small business owner, entrepreneur, a person who they're busy enough where they want some help scheduling, right? Maybe they don't have an assistant or even a virtual assistant, and they want something like a little more advanced, right? So that was kind of where we started. It was just building a tool for ourselves, and we're all kind of the same, me and my partners, right? In that demographic, that bucket. And then, yeah, I mean, how did it change? Like, basically, we just started asking people who are like us, small business owners, friends of ours, people in the business community. And they're like, if you guys could build that, we would definitely use it. We'd even pay for it. So that's kind of when we launched it. And we're like, well, hey, let's make this a product. We've always wanted to launch a product. And it just kind of made sense. So from there, where it changed, we just launched it to the world. And we just started getting feedback and getting users on it. Now, I mean, people range from like, a little like rowing class out in Connecticut to somebody in Australia who's like, running a little agency or maybe a personal trainer in like England or something like that. So it all kind of varies, across the board, and where the users, their demographics kind of surprise us in some ways, but I think that's just the evolution of building a product, right? You get people on it, different people use it in different ways. You kind of see where the majority are and who's using it, and you adjust from there.
What were the surprises in the demographics that you referred to?
This lady, she was like one of our first paying customers, and she just randomly found us. Granted, we were on like AppSumo and, marketplaces, but we saw, because, we could see like free sign up and then paid, right? We're using Stripe. And she was like one of our first people that paid and went premium. And it was kind of cool because it was like, wow, this person has this like little tiny like rowing, like she taught rowing, like actual, like get a canoe, like a row, like, I'm gonna give you tours. And she signed up and she paid. And that was pretty cool because number one, it was like our first paying customer out of nowhere, right? Just organic found us and started paying. And also like our prompts, even still now, are pretty bad. Like we're not salesy. We don't have like really good marketing. We don't have a drip campaign. We don't have like a lot of nudges. We don't have prompts built in everywhere. So for us, it was kind of cool to see that she like found that pathway and wanted to go premium and did it. That was sweet. And then we, building it 2 years prior, you'd never suspect like, hey, a little rowing company in Connecticut, United States is going to sign up for it, right? I mean, that's just all right. Let's, and we didn't like jump in like, all right, we're going to go like to all the rowing companies. It was kind of cool to kind of see, and we've had staffing companies sign up too. So I mean, those are definitely surprises because we thought it was going to be just like entrepreneurs like us, and so that's pretty cool.
Did you notice any differences in requirements from customers of different types or from different geos?
People, they ask for all sorts of things, and we haven't found things that are very industry, I would say, specific. But what I found, some people like like one kind of like class of people, like especially on our platform for say scheduling, and they were kind of looking for payment integration, but at the same time they were also like say like a personal trainer. They had a hot yoga studio. Now, if you build towards that, now you're competing in a whole different market, right? Now you're competing with like mind body and tools like that. And that's not really our interest and our focus. So, those are where you got to kind of tell those users, hey, well, kind of what you're explaining is like mind body. So maybe go use that. We don't have any intent to like compete or build against them in the future. So if you're waiting on it, you're going to be waiting for a very long time. Now, I granted, like payments would be kind of a nifty feature in a scheduling tool. I get it, but things like that, that's an outlier example, right? Where it's like you start doing that, then you're going to a whole different direction in your platform, right? That's not a bad thing because if you're getting a ton of that feedback and a ton of people want it, then you should probably build it. But those are some cases that we've seen.
And in terms of AI and machine learning, how do you all use these technologies inside Sidekick to power the abilities?
Yeah. So I know that I sent you over before we're kind of getting stuff ready, the tech stack. So everybody listening, I'm a non-technical founder, not a developer at all, more the business, sales and the marketing side. So number one, it's calling it, there's no true AI. So, but calling it Sidekick machine learning is kind of too long. That'd probably be a bad name. So Sidekick AI sounds better, simpler, shorter. So yeah, so instead of Sidekick machine learning, right? It's not catchy. Yeah, maybe Sidekick scheduling, something like that. But the core of it that we built was literally it could read over text. And this is what Nate built for the POC, right? The proof of concept when he showed us was he basically sent an email to it. Well, at first, how it was it would you just sync it with your Google and it would read over literally every single email. And it would pick apart like, oh, this email has an intent of maybe they want to meet. They want to like whatever slangs are for meeting in English. Let's link up. Let's connect. Let's get together. And then it would find for other things like time, dates, and things like that. It would actually parse those out and then start the process. And then the other emails, it would just kind of ignore. So when we're training it, I've been a founder and entrepreneur since 2011. In my previous company, I had a ton of emails because I would schedule meetings all the time, right? So I took like 200,000 of those emails and I sent it to Sidekick, and we actually trained it up. And it was cool to kind of see, like, again, I didn't know exactly how it was like learning and what was happening, but they would send me the percentiles of like the actual getting smarter. And that was very cool to see. So yeah, if anybody's interested, like just email me, Chris at sidekickai.com, talk about the tech stack. Like I'll, connect you with Nate. But that's the part where Sidekick is smarter than a lot of just like link share.
Was there something unexpected that you learned building Sidekick? Something you now have a better appreciation of?
Building a software startup for yourself, yes, so much appreciation for, and more appreciation for the products that are making like decent money and they're self-sustainable without funding. That's amazing. Because I know right now, like the market that we're in, this is better than I do, but like the time we're in right now of like startups, SaaS, you name it, it's wildfire everywhere. Like even MicroAcquire, massive platform for buying and selling companies. Andrew Gazdecki founded it. I actually was one of his first resellers. That was my first company. It was called Grand Apps. We resold his first successful company, Business Apps. So I've kind of seen his journey, and like, he just like lit the startup world on fire. I have a lot of respect and like appreciation for those people building something. If you're raising money, cool. You're going after huge, huge problems. Great, do it. But just building something that's bootstrapped, that's working, making money. That's so much appreciation. I've definitely learned that because we've been building for clients since 2011. Right, we've been building software, building for businesses, building apps, websites, but building your actual own. You learn a ton, like so much. You learn a lot of things, what not to do, what to do. One takeaway that I really learned over the past like 3 years was simply just overbuilding. I think that's like a huge problem that first time like product owners are going to have in entrepreneurs, because like you have this grandiose idea of like you're looking at the future of what you want it to be and what it should be and could be, and then you're trying to build everything as of what you think that. Just build the core and then get it in the hands of a few and then make improvements based off that. I just got a Slack message today from my dev team, and we're talking about ripping out a feature that we built 3 years ago just because nobody's using it. And like the cost that it would take to maintain that feature is going to be more than what it would take to just rip it out. So therefore you're at a loss. And that's one thing I learned too, right? So if you overbuild, you have to maintain this stuff. And if nobody's using it, you're just paying to maintain, AKA you're just burning cash on fire. So like, don't do that.
Did you follow that advice by building the core and going to the first users?
No, absolutely not. No, we overbuilt. I'm speaking hindsight, 3 years older me. Yes. No, we overbuilt way too much. Probably. So put it this way, the actual feature, like scheduling, like the actual feature that's working the most and that we've had the most success in usage is a feature that we launched under a year ago. And we've been building since 2019. So put that in context. Yeah, yeah.
Now, what would be your advice for someone building a new product today? And how to fast forward to 1 year ago, that feature that you built 1 year ago, and skip the first 2 years?
Yeah, I think so. Like when you're building a product, right? There's like big themes and like big functionality that like this thing needs to do, and there's like all these like little things that go into it, right? And I think really making sure you focus on like the big simple thing and just keeping it really, really simple. Basically, make sure it works and it works how it should function at the simplest level. It doesn't even have to look good. People may disagree, like, it has to look good. No, it doesn't. Like, because if it works really well and people like it, they're going to start using it, and they're also going to support you. That's the biggest thing that I found was if you go on things like Product Hunt, AppSumo, marketplaces that are for founders and their early adopters, they're going to support you, which is awesome. And you're going to get so much feedback. So that's the thing. Like I wish what we would have done, I'll give people the blueprint, like you said, how should I do it? I wish what we would have done was built something very, very, very simpler and not try to make it beautiful and all these features. And I wish we would have went to like a product hunt sooner or AppSumo sooner. We went on AppSumo like relatively quick, like 3 months after we launched. But yeah, just building it super simple, go get that feedback and then see where you have to pivot and just really start talking to people and asking them what works, what doesn't work, like, where should we go? And you'll learn pretty quick. Like you'll hear like 10 people say this, 50 people say this. One person says this, don't focus on the one, focus on the masses. And yeah, so there's no actual blueprint. It's just, I promise, just don't overbuild and like don't put all the bells, the whistles, all the features. Just make sure it's functional. Like just functional and then get feedback. And it might you might not like it in the current present as you're building it because you have all these ideas, but hindsight, you will definitely thank yourself.
The sooner you hit the market, the sooner you get that feedback, the sooner you start changing the course or adjusting your course toward the right product for the market.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, is like another thing with that is, try to get number one, try to build to go to market, right? That's number one. Build very simple to go to market, and then get in front of the market, but listen to the market and be honest with yourself. Like, do you have market fit? Do you not? Because I'll be like, if we put Sidekick out there and people are like, it's just a piece of junk. It's garbage. We would never use it. And these people are pretty honest on these platforms. You have to like decide like, all right, do I just cut my losses and like just put it on the shelf? Because I do know friends and we've built products for people where it's like 5 years later they're still building and then something just came out of the blue because they got a bunch of funding and just took over all their market share, just replaced it, right? And so for me, it's like get to market super fast, get feedback, try to find a market fit. And like, here's the thing, if you don't have product market fit, don't force it. If you just don't have it, you don't have it. And then you could still make it a hobby and like update it but just don't waste your time and don't just try to force like this idea because I want to be a product owner. Like some of the best ideas that I've seen that like took off like wildfire just came to people based on their experience and I'm like, oh, I want to solve this problem and they got a little lucky, but it just kind of blew up. So yeah, that's another piece of wisdom I guess I'd give people.
Make sure you see the things as they are and don't try to kind of mislead yourself. And actually, there is a lot of cases where people had to pivot. And a lot of great companies that we see today were built after the first initial idea flopped. And then people pivoted. And then they found the right idea for the company. So just making sure you don't waste your time on too much on the idea that obviously doesn't work. And instead, just pivoting maybe to second, maybe to third idea. I know the companies that went through maybe 5 ideas before they had their own. But yeah, didn't get stuck in any of them because they understood that they don't have a product market fit there. And switching gears a little bit here, talking about you personally, you've been building companies for more than a decade now. What would you say was the most challenging time for you, or life or death moment, so to say, for your business? And how did you overcome it?
Yeah, I mean, I just think the early days are the scariest and the most life and death. I think as you get older, you just kind of realize everything works out. It generally does, and I think you have a little more confidence after those first bumps and bruises. But the first days, it's terrifying. Like when I started my company, it was like I was waiting tables, and you don't know if it's going to work, if it is going to work. And like every little tiny thing, like one client leaves, it's like the biggest thing in the world. Even if that client's paying you like $100 a month, and that's like massive. I remember we had a client leave us, and it was like the biggest marketing client we had at the time, and we were profiting maybe like $400 a month from them, right? Like we're talking about margin after all of our costs go into the ad spend because we did some app design development and then social media marketing, PPC too, and that was like we just signed our first office lease, and then like that client fires us, and it's like the world's burning and a company's gonna die, we can't afford rent. But as you kind of get older, like things will work out. So what I will say is like he's got to keep going through it and showing up and just get serious about it and like sticking with it. Like when I started to see some of the most success was like, all right, it's time to weekends too, because you have no brand recognition, you have no clients, you have no exposure, like you have no network, like you have almost nothing. So like at the time I had zero foundation built up and I was like, all right, I just got to put in like enough work to build this foundation to get it set up. And then, I started working weekends. So it was just literally nonstop every single day until you kind of get that momentum and that traction. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of what it takes. But yeah, I would say the earliest years are going to be kind of the most scariest. And then, yeah, then as you grow, you have bigger problems, right? And then it's just, they're kind of all the same problems in business. It just depends on like what scale you're at. Like people are going to come, they're going to go. Customers are going to come, they're going to go. Sole team members, people will fire you. You'll fire people. It just, it's like what level are you at? And it just depends on your business situation. Like some people also like, we're in software, right? And like this land, but some people have like big manufacturing shops, right? And they like over levered their debt because like they need to buy this equipment and they're very optimistic on the forecast of the future, then, say a pandemic hits and it's like, what do they do then? Right. Those are all different problems that you have to navigate. So it just depends on, I think, like what level you're at. So, but yeah, the overall theme, the older you get, more calm you get because you've been through so many like little things like that. You're just like, yeah, whatever, it'll work out. Like we'll figure out a way.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And you also got two co-founders, John and Nathan, and you've been working together for more than 5 years now, right?
Nate around that. Nate probably like 4, John over like 10 now. He actually was with me. He was with me in Grand Apps, like the first one.
Okay, and so how did you find your flow where you work together well and complement each other's strengths?
For John and I, like we're pretty similar, but we also like had complementary attributes, and we've been doing it for over a decade, and like we kind of found that flow, and like it wasn't by like force. Like you don't just go out and you're like, I want a business partner. Let me go like a dating app. But like let me go, date some business partners and see if it works out, right? Like I guess dating a business partner, starting a business, fails or not, right? And I've had probably like at one point I counted like 12 business partners in all these different companies. Had like, a video company, flooring company, real estate, marketing, software company. And then each of those had multiple partners, right? So it was like more than 12 at that point. And some of them I did not get along with like at all. And, just you butt heads a lot and like you just see completely different. I think like what a really good partnership and you kind of find that flow is like you have like similar ideals and you guys believe in the same thing, but you guys offer different pieces to the puzzle to kind of make it whole, right? And that's just where we all kind of click and we get along. It's not super easy. It's a relationship at the end of the day, and it's even more complex because like you're probably seeing that person the most, right? So you have to work with them the most. And I think if you just have good communication and you're kind of open minded, I think that's where you could really, really make some strides, right? And what I've seen usually get in the way of progress is ego, more or less, right? It's just like, oh, this is my ideas, my ways, my company. It's just like, all right, well, no one really wants to debate or argue all day, right? And like, I mean, what's the point here? Like, what are we doing? And that's where I've seen a lot of ego come into play for that. So for us, like we're all prideful, we're all kind of like competitive people. We all want success, but at the end of the day, like our ego isn't so massive where it's like, all right, like it's my way or the highway, and we all kind of work together. So those are some of the underlying things. On the skill level set, it's Nate, he's an actual developer. He's good at that. Me right now, like we're doing this. I'm doing content. Like I can do the content side, the marketing kind of side of things. John's really good at sales. He's good at operations as well. He works with our CPA too. So like numbers, setting up budgets. So we all have those like skill sets that complement each other that we could have a really good core team. And then we just kind of build around that, and then we just add pieces, where we need them.
Did you go deliberately to have two other co-founders who kind of complement your skills, or the company was started because you three are so complementary?
Basically, so I met John 2000 I think 11 or I think it was 12, 2012. And he was kind of starting another company. I was part of this company. He's like, hey, I like you and your other co-founder and what you guys are doing better than my situation I'm in. Are you guys open for me coming over and doing it? At the time, it was like, yeah, we needed help and we really had nothing. We had like no customers. No, so it's like, yeah, sure. You're kind of doing this, hey, come join the team. Let's see what we could build. And then we just did that for like a decade. Then we met Nate and it was like, like this guy's pretty smart, right? Like, we've always felt we were missing like a technical founder to like go to another level, especially in software. And no matter if you have a product or some kind of like agency, and yeah, so we met him. I don't know, like years later, well over six plus years later, met Nate, and he worked on a couple projects with our other company that we started. We're like, this is pretty good synergies. We work well. So I guess it's like you count that, I guess, a dating phase. And then yeah, we sold our other previous company, and then it was like, hey, we're gonna come join, Kairos like full time, like dedicate our time, like help build and grow this because we think we can go to like another level with it. So, nothing was like deliberate at all. It's kind of like, just knowing a lot of people, working with a lot of people, things just kind of happen, which was really nice. So people ask me all the time, like, how do I find like a technical co-founder? Because I don't know, it's just go expand your network and I would say pitch your idea. But I will say like what's kind of annoying for me being the agency side and a developer is, ideas are a dime a dozen, right? It's about the execution. It's all a little bit about the timing, the luck, to add that in. But people have came to us over the past decade. I have this idea. I want you guys to be the partner to build it and, put all the time in. And just putting this out there for people watching to find a technical founder, that is a bad pitch because literally like anybody can come up with an idea and like you have like almost no risk and the person building it has the higher risk because it's all their time. You can't get time back unless you're going to put in the money and they could still offer to build it and manage it, but just having the idea is not an asset at all, right? To come as an equal 50-50 partner and to find a technical founder to build it. What I will say is one of my friends locally, he actually was building this platform, reached out to this guy who like just sold the company, but he wanted like help to build something. So he just kind of told him, he's like, hey, this is kind of what I'm doing. What do you think about it? He's like, oh, I actually love this. He's like, I'd love to be a part of this. He's like, well, can I hire you? Do you want equity? What do you want? So they worked out a deal where he got equity and they actually sold the company for over 7 figures. And like this, CTO technical founder cashed out. But again, it was like him kind of like pitching the idea and like sharing it until he found someone who really, really liked it. But he also offered to pay before it too. So, there's many ways to do it. But, if you're pitching straight up just the idea, like, yeah, everybody has ideas. It's about who can get it done and the best.
Right. But if you're not technical founder, it makes sense to find someone technical who's going to believe in your idea and who's going to share it with you. Even if you have to pay them initially, it's still worth it because without a technical founder, it's definitely real hard.
Very hard. So actually, I heard this from another guy who started another shop. He said that when people pitch him ideas, he's willing to do it as a technical person, but he'll ask the question to the person who wants to do it says, are you willing to just sell everything and go all in on this right now? Like, seriously, yes or no? Like, no, yeah. Because some of those people that have ideas and they want a technical founder, they just think it's the next Uber of something to make $1 billion, but they're not truly invested in it. They just want someone to build it to try it out. Right. So even myself, I ask that now, and it's like, even if we take on clients too, it's like, are you willing to drop every single thing and commit your entire being for minimum of, let's say, 24 months, a couple years, and go all in and do this? If you're not, then it's just an idea. You're trying to get rich. It's a fad. It's a hobby. But is this literally something? And you have to prove it in some way, right? And that if they're really serious, they do it. And then it's like, okay, you're committed. Let's build this.
And for our last question, I wanted to talk about your long-term goals for Sidekick, your vision for the company.
Put it this way, we launched it. It was just an idea, and we never like had any expectations. we had zero expectations because it was like, this would be cool. Let's launch it. Now we have like 2,500 users on it. And I mean, for us, like long term, like we just want to make it a truly good tool that can compete amongst the ranks of the top tools, right? Like be in the conversation, right? So it's like, hey, we want a scheduling tool. We're looking between this, this, and this, like a market leader. I mean, for us, like we're realistic. It's like we know we're competing with like a lot of other tools, a lot of people, billion-dollar companies, right? And for us, it's, we're not trying to slay Goliath and like we want to be the billion-dollar unicorn. Probably not realistic, but what is realistic that we believe is like we could be in that, top 5 category of like people naming like what's a competitive tool that we want to use for our company, for our needs. That's like an overall goal. And then, really mini goals like just keep making improvements, keep making people happy, doing as much as we can. So, again, it's not massive, it's not huge. We're still a bootstrap startup. We own, a software agency, but we are seeing like a lot of progress. So yeah, just keep making progress.
And exponential curves always look
Yeah.
tiny at the beginning before they took off. Chris, thank you for joining us today. It was a great conversation.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening. You can sign up for Sidekick on their website, and you can follow Chris on LinkedIn. The links will be in the show notes.